state that nearly 14 billion years ago expansion started. Wait, the earth began to cool, the autotrophs began to drool, Neanderthals developed tools, we built a wall. We built the pyramids. Math, science, history, unraveling the mystery that all started with a Big Bang. Hey!
The theme song to a very popular comedy sitcom, The Big Bang Theory. Math, science, history, and unraveled in the mystery. An interesting line. I don't know if they're trying to say that the mystery was unraveled as we grew in science, or if, as math, science, and history portray, the mystery remains. And that's kind of what this essay is somewhat about, that we're talking about. Welcome, Father Rich, here in the dining room, the window of the dining room facing to 38th Street. This is a papyrus of St. George in my home parish, and so one of my patron saints, the Infant of Prague that my great aunt had that I inherited, so I'm grateful to have that, dressed in his ordinary time green there. And then this picture over here that we'll get back to in a second. But the name of the essay that is the next in our series on how the church has changed the world is called The Church and the Beginning of It All. And it talks about the Big Bang Theory. We referred to this a couple essays ago and videos ago. And the author, he's talking about going back to Italy. And he was back visiting his ancestors in a small Italian town. And he was the American that everybody knew was around. So he was trying to show some younger Italian boys how to play baseball. And amidst of that, a couple teenagers came up to him and were going to kind of tell him that they didn't believe in God because they were scientists and they believed in the Big Bang Theory. And so the writer of the essay again says that it's so important that we as Catholics know what we say and what we believe. And so often other people kind of make judgments about our church and our faith based on things that aren't true, and even Catholics do it. And so if you remember from that essay a couple days ago, it was a Jesuit priest who came up with the Big Bang Theory. Albert Einstein certainly was part of helping understand that all existence came from one spot, but he would explain it in a fuller way that to start the foundation of this theory. So his name was Father Georges Lemaitre, and he really was a brilliant scholar. He went to MIT and he got his doctorate in physics. He was also had degrees in mathematics as well as philosophy and theology. And so it's really interesting that the very theories that science has come up with that supposedly kind of refute faith and religion were developed, and really the foundational elements by faith believing people, and we see that throughout history. Really fascinating to see people like Newton that were faith and God-fearing people, but yet their theories and their principles in physics would be used to apply and to eventually elevate the physical world to the point of almost dismissing the divine and dismissing God. So important to know that. And so one of the other picture I have here is a picture of creation. That's part of the picture. It's actually the creation of man. That's part of the great painting fresco that Michelangelo did on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel back in the 1500s. And remember again, when it comes to creation and even the beginning of the world, we as Catholics are open to the Big Bang Theory as well as evolution. And some, as opposed to what that young Italian boy was saying, that they are contrary to our faith. Now, there are some more fundamental Christians who believe in a 6,000-year-old earth, or that believe in the 7-day creation story, which we don't. We're not literalists, remember, when it comes to the Bible and the book of Genesis. But that is contrary to their belief. In fact, I went to the Ark encounter in Kentucky last summer. They actually recreated what the Ark would have looked like and believed to be as described in the Bible. And there, the whole basis of their presentation is on the timeline of history of a 6,000-year-old earth and the 7-day creation story. So it's fascinating to go to, certainly worth visiting, but to know that what they're espousing there, in their Christianity, a little different than how we as Catholics approach it. But so important to know that we don't deny evolution and the Big Bang when it comes to our understanding. But the key pieces of creation, that God created all of being, and certainly humanity as kind of the climax, the high point of his creation, that he was intentional about giving us that soul that makes us uniquely created in his image and likeness, that opens us to the immortal, and that soul that has the intellect and the will, where we can choose and freely love and also know what's true and right. And it's so those elements that come from that creation story that are the key that we take. And so important to realize that. So I think I'd like to say that the Big Bang Theory song, the Bare Naked Ladies wrote that, and I didn't realize they had, that it does go back to the fact that even with the development of math, science, and history, and all the ways it's we have advanced in our human knowledge, that the mystery remains, and that there's still this kind of reverence that we owe to the source of all that truth, and that we're growing in, which is our God. And certainly Father Georges, I always forget his last name, Lemaitre, is a great example of that. So thank you for joining me. Hopefully this reminds us of the impact, again, that our church has had on the development of history, or of science, but also seeing that those can work hand in hand and are not mutually exclusive, science and religion. So thank you. Have a great day, and God bless.